If a man has $500 million and a girl stands at the top of the social ladder, it is because God in them had the desire and is fulfilling it. Imagination fulfills itself lecture. I am interested in sports. I do not go to the races often, but I do enjoy watching the feature race on TV every Saturday. Last week, a young jockey by the name of Angel Cordova was interviewed after winning the feature race. Wearing gay colors and looking almost like a circus clown, he was asked about his riding ability and answered, "The ability to ride has nothing to do with winning. It is all in feeling lucky. I could ride the best horse there is, but if I do not feel lucky, he won't come in first." This chap came to the track feeling lucky. Was he not imagining that he was lucky when at the end of the day he took home maybe $10,000 just for running the race? The jockey imagined himself a lucky man. He would not have been lucky if he lost the race. Only by feeling lucky could he bring the horse in first. Anyone who has succeeded in applying this principle will have felt the same emotion. For feeling causes action, and no power can stop the action of the human imagination. God's Plan of Redemption Lecture. Tonight you take your dream and make it a noble one, and create a scene that would imply its fulfillment of your dream, and open that western gate, which is touch. There is one man who made deposits, mental ones, at his bank. You know the story of Archie Franklin. He mentally went into 2 different banks and asked for his balance and heard what was said to him. He did it 3 times a day for 2 months. Then he went to Caliente and returned with $32,000. What he won was $3 more than the bank deposit he had mentally added up. I do not say go to Caliente, but I say put yourselves in the same state and do not let anyone tell you it is not spiritual. For while you are saying that, they are already wondering if they can borrow some of that check when you get it. North of the Strip Lecture. Are you willing to test yourself? Let me tell you of a lady I know who in her middle 60s had nothing when she put this principle into practice. Every morning, as she soaked in the tub prior to going to her $70 a week job, she would say to herself, "Something wonderful is happening to me now." She kept playing upon the mood, toying with the feeling that something wonderful was happening. That very week, she received her first breakthrough. For 30-odd years, this lady had attended the opera, concerts, and Broadway shows with an intimate friend. Every night they dined in some fabulous restaurant, but he had told her many times he would never give her any money. But he suddenly had a change of heart and signed over a $100,000 trust fund to her, to be spent immediately as she so desired. A short time later, she began to apply the law to a greater degree, and he again set up another $100,000 fund for her. Now this lady, whose rent is $165 per month, can't spend the income she receives from a $200,000 fund, plus her Social Security, but she isn't satisfied and wants more. This doesn't mean that just because you heard my vision, you are going to enjoy wealth. You must apply what you heard and remember when. If you would say, "I remember when I couldn't afford to spend $400 a month for rent," you are implying you can well afford it now. The words, "I remember when it was a struggle to live on my monthly income," implies you have transcended that limitation. You can put yourself into any state by remembering when. You can remember when your friend expressed her desire to be married, by remembering when she was single. You are persuading yourself that your friend is no longer in that state, as you have moved on from one state into another. Believe it in lecture. Are you willing to test yourself? Let me tell you of one lady who did, many years ago, while living in a rooming house in Brooklyn with very little money. This lady started each day with these words, "I am a very wealthy woman. I have $50,000 in cash." Every Sunday morning, she would go to the corner and buy a Sunday Times for her neighbor, Mrs. Mead, who was a little old lady living frugally and rarely left the house. Within a year after this lady began starting her day claiming her wealth, Mrs. Mead died, leaving her $50,000 in cash, plus jewelry valued in excess of $30,000. She received an estate of over $100,000 by keeping the tents. While you are here, you can become independently secure, certainly. All of these things are possible to you. But the real objective in your life is to find God, the cause of all life. To believe in God does not aid you. The question is, do you believe in yourself? Can you believe you are rich when you have no money? Can you continue to believe it throughout the day and fall asleep night after night as though you were? If you will become rich. Then fulfill another desire and then another, and one day you will discover the one who made it possible. That one is God. There is no limit to his power, so take that power which became you and attach it to your desire. Sleep every night so attached to your desire that you feel its reality, and in no time you will prove my words. Within a year, the lady in New York City received her $50,000 pressed down and running over. She knew exactly what she did, and would never have guessed that the little old lady she bought the paper for every Sunday morning would be used as the means to give her the wealth she claimed. Man is in the habit of thinking of God and not as God. It is so easy to forget to keep the tense. Every good, well-trained Jew is familiar with the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They have read the book of Exodus many times and believe God is the great I Am. Yet they still think of him in the third person. They would think that anyone who boldly stood up and claimed, I am he, was arrogant. Yet I tell you that is the only way you will ever find God. But when he comes, there is no need to brag about it. You know who you are, and when they call you by your earthly name, you respond. Perhaps you will have dinner together, but they will continue to be totally unaware of the being within you, and you don't always throw pearls before swine, because they are not prepared to receive them. You will join their party and enjoy the evening as you let the outer man play his part. But you know the inner man, the one they know not of. That man is Jesus Christ. You can never outgrow I Am lecture. In my audience sat a man who by his confession was broke. He had read the same book, but he suddenly realized he had done nothing with the use of his imagination to solve his financial problem. He decided he would try to imagine himself as the winner of the 5 through 10 pool at Caliente racetrack. In his words, in this pool, one attempts to pick winners in the 5th through the 10th races. So this is what I did. In my imagination, I stood, sorting my tickets and feeling as I did so that I had each of the 6 winners. I enacted the scene over and over in my imagination until I felt goose pimples. Then I saw the cashier giving me a large sum of money which I placed beneath my imaginary shirt. This was my entire imaginal drama, and for 3 weeks, night after night, I enacted this scene and fell asleep in this action. After 3 weeks, I traveled physically to the Caliente racetrack, and on that day, every detail of my imaginative play was actually realized. The only change in the scene was that the cashier gave me a check for a total of $8,400,000 instead of currency, TK. After my lecture the night this story was told, a man in the audience asked me if I thought it possible for him to duplicate TK's experience. I told him he must decide the circumstances of his imaginal scene himself, but whatever scene he chose, he must create a drama he could make natural to himself and imagine the end intently with all the feeling he could muster. He must not labor for the means to the end, but live imaginatively in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. 1 month later, he showed me a check for $16,000, which he had won in another 5 through 10 pool in the same Caliente racetrack the previous day. This man had a sequel to his most interesting duplication of TK's good fortune. His first win took care of his immediate financial difficulties, although he wanted more money for future family security. Also, and more important to him, he wanted to prove that this had not been an accident. He reasoned that if his good luck could happen a second time in succession, the so-called law of percentages would give way to proof for him that this imaginal structures were actually producing this miraculous reality. And so he dared put his imagination to a second test. He continues, I wanted a sizable bank account, and this to me meant seeing a large balance on my bank statements. Therefore, in my imagination, I enacted a scene which took me into the 2 banks. In each bank, I could see an appreciative smile meant for me from the bank manager as I walked into his establishment. As I would hear the teller's cordial greeting, I would ask to see my statement. In one bank, I saw a balance of $10,000. In the other bank, I saw a balance of $15,000. My imaginal scene did not end there. Immediately after seeing my bank balances, I would turn my attention to my horse racing system, which through a progression of 10 steps would bring my winnings to $11,533 with a starting capital of $200. I would divide the winnings into 12 piles on my desk. Counting the money in my imaginary hands, I would put $1,000 in each of 11 piles and the remaining $533 in the last pile. My imaginal counting would amount to $36,533, including my bank balances. I enacted this entire imaginative scene each morning, afternoon, and night for less than 1 month, and on March 2nd, I went to the Caliente track again. I made out my tickets, but strangely enough, and not knowing why I did so, I duplicated 6 more tickets, exactly like the 6 already made out, but in the 10th selection I made a mistake and copied 2 tickets twice. As the winners came in, I held 2 of them, each paying $16,423.50. I also had 6 consolation tickets, each paying $656.80. The combined total amounted to $36,788. My imaginary accounting 1 month before had totaled $36,533. 2 points of interest most profound to me were that by seeming accident I had marked 2 winning tickets identically, and also that as the end of the 9th race, which was one of the major winners, the trainer attempted to scratch the horse, but the stewards denied the trainer's request. AJF. How subtle were the threads that led to his goal. Results must testify to our imagining, or we really are not imagining the end at all. AJF faithfully imagined the end, and all things conspired to aid his harvesting. His mistake in copying a winning ticket twice, and the steward's refusal to allow the trainer's request, were events created by the imaginal drama to move the plan of things forward to its goal.